Hello, welcome everybody to today's Vermont Manchester community event. We'll be giving folks a couple of minutes to come into the room. In the meantime, enjoy the wonderful music selection of Mr. Leandro Tyberg.
Please feel free to express yourself in interpretive dance.
Also, for attendees coming in, if you don't mind putting your name and your affiliation in the chat, that would be awesome.
Sin tocarme la puerta, recuerdo entrometido de un tiempo olvidado. Ha venido un recuerdo mojado de una tarde de lluvia, de tu pelo enredado. Como siempre que se cambian los papeles, voy a quedarme dormido en tu cintura. Y si me despierta el día presumido, déjame quedarme un poco en las alturas. ¿Para qué contar el tiempo que nos queda? ¿Para qué contar el tiempo que se quedó? Si vivir es un regalo y un presente,
Matthew is the head of the interpretive dance department. I love that.
He's got moves like you can't imagine.
Can I come work for you, Matt?
We're going to need to include a portion of interpretive dance at the next community workshop, which will be hybrid, Kenta, so it'll be in person for you and Matt.
Oh, wow. I spoke too soon. Rita asked, are we on mute? So yes, the attendees are on mute, but if you would like to say something, raise your hand and I believe Lisa can unmute you. Oh, okay, not at this time. So, all right, we'll give folks another minute before we get started, and then we'll dive right into it. And for folks that just joined, if you don't mind putting in your name in the chat box, and then just either your affiliation or just what brought you to the meeting today.
Yesterday my heart was filled with rain. Sunny, you smiled at me and really eased the pain. Oh, the dark days are done and the bright days are here. My sunny one shines so sincere. Sunny one so true, I love you. Sunny, thank you for the sunshine. Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. To kick things off, I'm going to introduce Gustavo Olivares, who's serving as our translator today. So thank you, Gustavo. And if you don't mind sharing the instructions for the Spanish translation at this time, that would be great.
Gracias, hola, bienvenidos. Me llamo Gustavo y voy a ser el interpretador de este día. Si están interesados para escuchar el idioma en español, oprimen el botón abajo para seleccionar la translación en español.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and activate the translation feature. Gustavo, if you want to let folks know that that is available. Okay, I think he's on the Spanish channel, but si alguien quiere escuchar el programa de hoy en español, por favor, oprime el botón abajo, el globo, y seleccionan la opción de español. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining today. Good evening and bienvenidos. Today we're going to be giving a couple of updates about the project, the Vermont Manchester Development Project. I'll do a quick overview of the project itself for folks that are not familiar, and this is their first time hearing about this exciting and amazing project. And then the main topic for today's session is the Seed School of Los Angeles. So Julian, who's the head of school there, will be doing a presentation on the Seed School, as well as the application process and how folks can get involved. In addition, our development team, who is here with me as panelists, will be giving updates about the different sections of the project, and I will introduce everyone quickly at this time. So Claudia Cardenas and Leandro Tyberg are both from Prime Store and oversee the commercial aspect of the project. Kim McKay is from Bridge Housing and oversees the affordable housing component. And then Naylura Bell and Julian are both from Seed School Los Angeles and oversee the boarding school part. And then myself and Lisa Winkle are from Coalition for Responsible Community Development and are leading the community outreach efforts. So I will give a quick overview of the project. All right, so the Vermont Manchester, or now known as the Evermont project, is a mixed-use development which will be located on the empty lot on the northeast corner of Vermont and Manchester. The Evermont development will consist of 180 units of affordable housing, 62 units for seniors and 86 for families, and 32 for transitional age youth, all over a commercial plaza. The development will also include a transit plaza, the Seed School of Los Angeles County Boarding School, and a Metro Los Angeles Training Center. All of that to say, this is an extremely exciting development in the neighborhood. And at this time, I will pass it over to our development team to share any updates about each portion of the project. So let's start off with the Prime Store team.
You got it. Thank you very much, Kenta, and everybody on the call. And thank you for the community members and partners that have all joined on a very busy night. Thank you for that commitment. I am super pleased to give you guys an update on where we stand with the commercial component of the project. We are very excited to be finally getting close to conclusion on our plan check process. We are hoping to have our permits ready no later than the end of December, which has been a very long time coming. We've been about in plan check for goodness, like a year now. So it has been a long and arduous process, and we're almost done. We're also currently working on leveling and qualifying the bids from the general contractors, making sure that all the local hire commitments and components are included in their proposals, and currently vetting that process now. As a reminder, we are hoping to break ground in the first half of next year. So there's a lot to do between now and then to get us ready for mobilization. We're also working extremely hard on finishing our financing, making sure all the subsidies are in place, and getting ready for what is going to be a extremely complicated but long look forward to closing of the project so that we could get started. And then finally, we are much closer to securing an anchor tenant commitment, which we have all been hoping to reveal once we have a little bit closer on the negotiations to actually being able to. But we are definitely getting closer to somebody that we believe that the community will be very proud of. With that said, I will pass it to our partner, Kim McKay of Bridge Housing. Take it away, Kim.
Well, good evening, everybody, and ditto to Leandro's comments about joining us this evening. I know we're going into a really busy time of year too. I'm not going to Primestor and Bridge are in lockstep on advancing this project to closing. So the comments with regard to permit status and construction status is the same, basically. I am very happy to announce that our last piece of capital for the residential piece had been committed this week. So that's, we counted on that, but you know, now we're assured of it. So that's huge. So it's just full steam ahead to get the financing closed next year, get the project under construction, and in our case, get affordable residential housing delivered to the community, and to get happy households living there. So I don't have much more to really present to you. But happy to answer questions at the right point in time.
Great, thank you, Kim and Leandro. I should have said this earlier, but throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments around any of the information that you hear today, please feel free to use the chat function, or you can post a question in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we will be sure to answer any questions that come up throughout the presentation. We have a dedicated section for Q&A at the end, but if it's something that we can address along the way, we will be sure to do that. All right, so let me turn it over to Naylora for any updates from the C School.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kenta. I'm happy to see everyone again, or be in a virtual room with everyone. If you've had a chance to go by the site, as you can see, we're moving ahead. We've had to make a couple of adjustments, but our contractor has been flexible and adaptable, and we've gotten a lot done, even though we've kind of had to restructure our schedule due to some utility lines that are underneath the site that we were not aware of until we started construction. So we're moving along. And just, I guess the important part tonight is getting some students in the school, and Julian will talk to you more about that later. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we actually got a question already, which I think we should address now. From, apologies if I'm mispronouncing this, but Arindira, thank you for your question. The question is, how will residents be chosen for the affordable housing side? Is it all part Section 8 or other subsidized housing?
Well, thanks for the question. It's great. I know we'll be having more conversations about this, so this won't be the only opportunity to talk about it. But I can tell you, generally speaking, we'll be doing a very robust outreach within the community to encourage people to apply for the housing if they're interested in living there. We hope you will be. It's a beautiful project. As mentioned, we have family housing and senior housing. And so depending upon what your needs are, you know, you'd apply to one project or the other. It'll be a consolidated outreach and marketing and lease up activity. We will have some project-based Section 8 that runs with the project. We also would be more than happy to have folks that may have vouchers and are interested in living there to, you know, apply. I can't tell you definitively how our selection of residents will go. I can tell you based on prior experience with other projects and properties, and we develop across the Western United States, there's usually so much demand for the housing that, you know, sometimes it is a lottery process. I'm not sure that that's where we're going to end up on this, but I just put that out there that that is a possibility, but lots more to come. We're so focused right now just on getting the financing closed, the permits in hand, that you know, we will have more meetings and talk about that and make sure it's as inclusive and there's as much outreach as possible.
Absolutely. So thank you, Kim. And as Kim mentioned, we will be having a community event specifically around the application process for the affordable housing piece. That will most likely be later in 2022 or even early 2023. But by attending this event, you're on the listserv. We have your email, so just look out for any updates that come through around that. Okay, great. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Julian, who's going to share about the seed school and the application process.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So I'm going to slowly kind of get us going up in here, but I just want to start by just saying thank you so much to CRCD for partnership and just really making sure that we're all on the same page of what's going on. So I really appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit around Seed LA because it's exciting. And I love to see in our comment box, we have aunts, we have families, we have parents, we have all kinds of folks here, and that is very cool. So welcome to you. And thank you for coming to learn and just dive into this with us. So just kind of jumping into kind of the session for today. And, you know, look, I can spend 4 hours talking about Seed LA and you don't need that tonight and I don't need that, but we can do that over time. But we're going to start a little bit with understanding the Seed LA model of excellence today. Recognizing the similarities and differences between Seed LA and traditional school models. And then of course, know how to apply. And then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. And then I'm going to also talk a little bit today around what hiring looks like, because certainly we have a lot to do in a short amount of time before our kiddos enter very, very shortly. So a little bit about me, so you know who's staring at you in the face on this camera. My name is Julian Juman. I'm the CEO of Seed LA, the founding head of school, born and raised in California and spent the last 21 years as a teacher, dance teacher and history teacher. I'm very proud of those two things. An academic dean, principal of a middle school and high school, superintendent in both New York City and Los Angeles, and a network leader. And so I've been around a little bit, and mostly I am dedicated and focused to urban schools, school systems, and really making sure high quality education happens intentionally, purposely, and with fortitude for most underserved and resilient youth. And so that's my mission, and that's the path we're on. And you're going to see as I talk about Seed LA why it's so important to me. You also see my two dogs there, which I go everywhere with, so you see them right there, Sadie and Haley. So the mission of the school of Seed LA is a college preparatory boarding school whose mission is to providing an outstanding intensive education program that prepares students both academically and socially. So both of them are equally important in this model for success in college and beyond. And we're part of a partnership with 3 other schools, one in Maryland, one in DC, and one in Florida. And we are the first college preparatory, completely free public access boarding school, 5 days a week, 5 nights in the country. And so that's pretty exciting. And now it's in the heart of Los Angeles. So as we kind of go through, you're going to hear some components around our socio-emotional work. You're going to hear some components around our academic work, but it's really grounded in some key beliefs and values that we believe both adults and students learn best, really identifying to what it means to show respect for yourself and others, building responsibility, perseverance, integrity, compassion, gratitude, giving and receiving, and really celebrating growth. Both small wins and big wins are important. And so this is the foundation of a lot of our vision and culture identity work. So we serve all 96 miles of LA County. And so we are really open to all students and believe actually the model serves all students. And that's important to know. But we also make sure that we have weighted priority to students in the Vermont Manchester neighborhood, students of South Los Angeles, and really resilient youth in Los Angeles, homeless youth, students who have interacted with family services. They currently have a social worker or caseworker, or have had a social worker or caseworker, has been in contact with the probation department at some point during their academic career. They might be tracked by the probation department around some of their academic success and attendance, and immediate family members, parents and siblings who might be incarcerated at the time they submit their application. So again, we're open to all students, and we also know that we need to make this opportunity most accessible to our students that oftentimes wouldn't see this as an opportunity. And so we're outreaching throughout Los Angeles. So let's talk a little bit about the day, because some of this you'll see as a normal school. We've all been in school, so we have the feel, and then some of it will feel just a little bit different. And we're going to go through a cycle of student experience throughout this presentation. So students wake up, they shower, they dress, they do their chores, they make their bed. I never did it as a kid, but we're going to practice some good stuff. We're going to make our beds, and then we're going to transition right into breakfast together in houses. We're going to talk a little bit about what houses are. And then they go into breakfast, and then they get picked up at breakfast. They see also their teachers. And from there, their teachers take them right into first period, second period. This will feel a little bit normal, right? Nutrition and wellness break. They will also move into other periods, have lunch. And then on Mondays, at the end of the day, they'll have a community meeting. And so that's when everyone gets together and talk about what's happening for the week. What's our community focus for the week, right? And then Tuesday through Thursday, they'll have targeted tutoring. And that's really a nice opportunity for teachers to work directly with students on something that they need to kind of advance in, to push their thinking, and an area where you want to focus and really grow and better understand. And so that's that area. Then they will have athletics and sparks after school, which may feel a little bit similar, except now we have our teachers during the day and our teachers after school actually communicate because they're part of the same team. And there's a lot of power when everyone's looking at the same data and know and understand students both day and in the evening. So there's a relationship there. Dinner together, study hall, and then down to quiet house and lights out. So that's Monday through Thursday. Friday, students have class every single day, every single period. They have an hour with their teachers so they can really hone in on their learning from the week. And then they check out early because students go home Fridays, come back Sunday. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's go into the day in the life of a student. Let's get a little bit more granular and a little bit more specific. So you'll see a little picture here of what the dining hall will look like and the construction that's happening. You'll see that's a very beautiful campus as we're going along. So before school, as we mentioned before, there's a girls' dorm and a boys' dorm separately, different access points completely. And students will choose which house they are applying to when they do the application process. They're monitored by residential advisors in the night. Those are folks that circle around the dorms, check in on students, make sure if someone's sick at night, that they're going to get the support that they need, that families get called. So those folks also take them in their houses directly into breakfast. Houses are groups of 15 to 20 students that live together and also do a lot of their socio-emotional learning and development together. So it becomes your little family 5 days a week. You go home, you're with your family, you come back to your school family. And so that's the house program. And then students will greet their teachers to go into the day. And here, this won't look too different than what you probably have experienced or seen the program. So this could be one student's program. Monday and Wednesday, for example, they might have English and science. They might have history, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays, they might have computer science or algebra, or language acquisition. And then Friday, they have all their courses to make sure that they have learned the content for the week. And that's an important part of the school. We always want to catch up, even if it takes us a little bit longer to learn something. We need time to catch up. And so you'll see what is probably stands out a little bit is the college knowledge. So we really stay with students for 8 to 9 years. So that's another thing that's a little different. So not only do students graduate from CLA, we also take them into college and make sure they graduate. And so we believe in order to have and build that kind of relationship and really think about what college really will feel like and sound like and look like and prepare for it, it needs to start in grade 9. So they'll have a course all the way through preparing them for college. We'll just stop here briefly, but just kind of an example of the courses that they'll have over the next 4 years. We're really not just meeting state mandates, we're really going beyond so that students are competitive for college and they have the breadth of learning that they need. We also have partnered with Metro, and Metro is a powerful tool and support and partner to the school for a couple of reasons. One is we are doubling down on our STEM program and really feeding into our science and math, but also kind of thinking about what does computer science look like and what does engineering look like, and students will have opportunities to study those courses and really focus on them. As we also look at transportation industry, which is really around, if we're going to define it, how cities work, how do they move, and how people connect. And both of those things are a fundamental piece of every single content, but also an important way to think about politics. It's an important way to think about aerospace engineering. It's an important place to think about advocacy. So wherever students want to go and kind of think about, we're about bringing it back into the community so that we're thinking about how are our communities in our cities working and how are we connecting as people. What also Metro gives us is internships and opportunities for students in the 11th and 12th grade that most of us probably wouldn't get until college, after college, maybe never, I didn't. But really an opportunity to kind of work directly with those engineers and those lawyers and those political advocates that can really give students hands-on experience, and not to mention a very strong college resume. Hopefully by now you're kind of thinking, this is pretty cool. Where was this when I was going to school, right? That's the moment I always have. So we just had our academic day. So let's get back into it. We now start our student life program, which is our after school. So students then are tutored by their teachers. They have a great conversation. They're met by their student life counselors, and student life counselors are responsible for those houses. And so it's one student life counselor to every 15 to 17 students. So this becomes a little bit like school family, right? This person makes sure they're contacting families. Student life counselors reach out to different folks that students may need throughout the year, right? Because we also know we have students that might have different needs at different times. And so that's their responsibility. In addition to athletics like basketball and soccer, which students might choose to engage in, there's also really cool clubs. You got gardening, you got visual arts, performing arts. Hopefully we have dance. I'm a little biased that way. Engineering, student government. So students are able to kind of choose what's interesting for them and really study it in a new way with their friends. What we also really invest in is what we call the Compass Camp curriculum, which is directly a socio-emotional learning and community connection curriculum that is from 9th grade to 12th grade that involves multiple components. And we'll get into them in just a moment, but that's an important piece around this life counselor and why they're called a life counselor. As part of their work is to coach them socio-emotionally and connect it to their academics. So let's talk a little bit about what we mean about Compass Camp and the curriculum that it looks like. So there's core habits that we believe that students actually, we're not just born with core habits. And then there's core behaviors that we have to customize and grow so that we actually are being our authentic selves when we come in, which actually is something that not all of us have a gift to do. And so if we can give that to our kids now, what a powerful thing. So we believe in sharp minds, thinking thoroughly and clearly about what you're learning and why. Noble purpose, intentionality matters. Having strong hearts, we need to lead with our hearts. And sometimes we have been taught not to do that. And that's actually an important thing. Passion's an important thing. And aligned actions, what you say is also what you should do. That's an important lesson to have. And then core behaviors, curiosity and diversity. It's really important in order to understand diversity, you have to be curious about others. Joy and identity, courage and kindness, and determination and integrity. And so what students do is make commitments. If you're going to follow the middle is really the journey. They're making commitments not only to themselves, but to their friends, to the community throughout their 4 years. And so there's different commitments that they make that lead to exploration of self and other, responsibility, taking responsibility and ownership, community, leadership, how to actually lead and how actually to be a good follower. Both of those are a different form of leadership, but both are important. And then service, how do we give back and make sense and really lift up the community that we're from, because it's a powerful tool to have. It'd be remiss to not mention that over the next couple of years, we're building an edible garden. It is beautiful. It is fabulous. And I'm a gardener myself, so I also am really into this, but I also think it's about watching and developing and building something from scratch together year after year, each season after season, and developing something that you are going to be responsible for cooking and kind of seeing it all the way through is a really powerful tool for community, and also just a beautiful way to invite the local community to come in and say, eat with us, grow with us. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And this is a initial spec of what it's going to look like. It's pretty cool. So that hopefully we'll have a really neat gardening club. So then let's go back into the day. So we have student life program, we got basketball, we got gardening, we have all this cool stuff happening. We're learning about ourselves. And then we also move into our student life counselors, say, it's time for dinner, let's go. So the house comes together, they go to dinner. They have study hall, right? So and this is also a beautiful point where the student life counselors have spoken with the teachers. So we know what help students need in the afternoon, right? Which oftentimes we won't have. Sometimes when kids go home 5 days a week, it's hard to kind of follow up on the information until the next day. And sometimes it's lost, right? Because they're adolescents, they're still growing. Study hall, then we have community time, independent reading, and then lights out for bedtime. Student life counselors stay through about midnight or 11 o'clock at night, and then residential advisors come in the morning to take care of students or in the middle of the night, and then kind of take them in the morning. So we're seeing kind of a 24-hour cycle of our students' lives. We're also seeing the most important people in their lives. So you have your teachers, you have your student life counselors, and you have your residential advisors. So those are your key folks throughout those 5 days. I threw this in because it's just fun. So you're seeing here what it's going to look like if we were all standing above, which we would never do, but if we were all like zooming down into the school. So a couple of things to point out, right in front of us is actually the dorm. So if you go to the left side, it's a girls' dorm. They have their own key cards and entry and exit that's really designated per house that you're designated to. So you can't just walk into somebody else's house, right? Boys and girls are very separate, but you can see it looks kind of like a college dorm. It's pretty beautiful. On the right side is the boys' side, same deal. They have their own entrance and exit per their houses and into that particular building. So students go in and out based off of which house they are in. When you zoom really down, you're to see right in front of us some students sitting on a bench. That is actually the edge of the soccer field. Underneath is the basketball court, but that's the edge of that. So students are kind of hanging out there. And then if you zoom down a little bit, that's the courtyard. And so you see the dining room right there on the right side. And then you see a beautiful space for students to study, talk, read, similar to a college campus. And then if you zone even further down, you're going to see what looks like to me almost like a pit, but it's actually trees kind of sticking out because there's another lower courtyard where students can also study. It's connected to the science classrooms down below. So you can get a feel that we're really having students enter into a world of college before they get there. And that's a pretty big gift, and just a beautiful building to look at. So let's just zoom right into those dorms, shall we? So each house has 15 to 20 students, as we mentioned. It's supervised and designated by their student life counselors. But each house has 6 to 7 dorms in there and a living room. So it feels a little bit like your little house for those 5 days. The living room is a place for opens gathering and community gathering, studying, relaxing throughout the evening. You'll see on the left side those images. That's a boys' dorm on the top. They're studying, and hopefully that's studying and hanging out there. And then we also see some young ladies on the bottom who are also studying and just kind of doing some work together. There's 2 to 3 students that are assigned to each dorm room. Each student will have a bed, a dresser, and a desk for them to use. And I've really seen a lot of students just making it their own, right? Putting up pictures and all kinds of things. So it feels a little bit like a home away from home, but not too far because we're right here in LA. A quickie just to talk about Fridays. So what it looks like is students will check out between 2 and 2:30 on Fridays, and they prepare to go home. Through student life counselors and the administrative team provide support during that time. Parents have an option of picking up students directly from the school, or we actually have little mini buses or that we actually take students to a YMCA or a community center that is closer to their home. So we have groups of students that go to different areas. And then the pickup time at that location, 6 p.m. So we acknowledge that families have different needs, different work schedules. So you can make a choice to pick up yourself, or we'll make sure the transportation's there to somewhere safe and a place where students can hang out and possibly do some work, play basketball until family comes. Sunday is the same deal. Students typically choose to kind of be picked up by our vans in the same space at a YMCA or local community organization on Sunday afternoon. We bring them back to campus, they have dinner, and then they prepare for the week ahead, Monday through Friday. I want to take just a moment to talk a little bit about family engagement, because it's a huge piece of what we're starting to do right now. We're doing a lot of outreach. This is an example of being able to kind of not only present about CLA, but also start to get to know our families so we can sculpt a CLA that really is representative of LA. And so we're taking the time to do that. We're going to take the next couple of years to kind of ask questions, get information, but also meaningfully involve our families. So whether that's movie night on the lawn where we throw out blankets and we all come together as a community, or we have dinners together. We have student life counselors that send pictures so you know what's going on. It becomes harder and harder as students get into high school to actually know what they're doing. Whether they're at a boarding school or not, it doesn't matter, right? Because they're developing and doing what high school kids do. But we want to make sure that because we're all connected, that all of us have the information that we need to know what's happening and celebrate all the wins, small and big, because that's important. And then continue to build positive relationships. Students having the opportunity to reach out to their families throughout the week, as well as we are staying connected and everyone knows what the game plan is for students as they're moving forward. I want to talk a little bit about our commitment to socio-emotional learning. We talked earlier a little bit around the roadmap and making commitments as important pieces, but we also believe that we are really building human beings, not just developing students. These are human beings. And so it's about relationships. How do you maintain relationships? How do you navigate what you need through relationships and being able to communicate that? And all of those things are skills. Those things are we have to learn. And so both adults at CLA and students at CLA actively engage in what we call circle, where there's deep connections through making sure we're sharing our experiences, checking in with each other often. giving appreciation and celebrating personal growth as much as academic growth. And this happens 2 times a week where they do circle and really listen to each other. Adults also do it 2 times a week because we have to, that's a skill oftentimes in adulthood we also have to practice. The intention is when we hear each other and when we deeply are open to what other people say, then we start really talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then we are building expansive and joyful learning environments. And so that is one tool in our toolbox that is important to the foundation of CLA. And just to prove my point on how important SEL, really socio-emotional learning is, and it's not just a word. I know SEL is kind of thrown around, but it really is about socio-emotional development. You can see for next year, we have everyone who is listed here is responsible for both academic and socio-emotional learning. But I highlighted the folks who are directly responsible for implementing SEL learning, and it's quite a bit. And every year we grow in large numbers. We have a college counselor, and this is for 125 students, an evening nurse, a student life counselor, residential advisors. The student life counselors, we have 7 of them. Residential advisors, we have 6. Director of socio-emotional health, a dean of socio-emotional learning, and a social worker. So tons of folks who are dedicated to making sure students are both academically and emotionally safe. One of the questions I get a lot is, what about physical safety, right? Which even in regular school systems, we talk a lot about that. But CLA, we consider ourselves a gated community that houses CLA students and staff. There's a 24-hour day security present on campus. Students are supervised 24 hours a day by trained teachers, staff, student life counselors, and residential advisors who are all vetted and have background checks. But we also monitor our visitors. Just like a school, security is involved and front office staff. But in addition to that, we make sure there's authorization that happens at nighttime and during the day so that we know who's coming and going. And we also know our families well so that we're able to kind of meet the needs there while maintaining safety. We also get the question around, well, high school kids, they're going to have conflict. They're now living together and going to school 5 days a week. And that's true. No matter where you go, students are going to have to work through conflict and how to kind of think through that. And so we have a very clear discipline policy, both for our academic program and student life program that's going to be followed consistently. Students enter into CLA and have a week-long onboarding process that they do with us over the summer. And parents also have some onboarding so that they're aware of what the safety expectations are. But we also believe that our Compass curriculum and weekly circles combat a lot of the energy that when we don't know how to ask for what we need and when we get frustrated. Young adults need to practice that. And so we believe that. We also believe in restorative circles, which is something very separate that believes in restorative practices around relationships. How do you repair when you have broken something? And particularly relationships. So we actively put that into our curriculum to be able to make sure we're maintaining relationships and fixing them along the way. So let's get to the good stuff. Although I think I've been talking about cool stuff this whole time, let's get to some fun stuff around applying. How do we do this? So we are now open for business on the website. You can submit an e-application. So if you go right onto the website, I'm going to show you what it is in just a moment. You can click right onto the banner and it will take you where you need to go. It takes 5 to 7 minutes and really worth the ride, in my opinion. So that's one option. We also know that some families prefer a paper application and to do it that process. So Children's Collective has it open 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. They're helping both in Spanish and in English provide support. The address is at 915 West Manchester. We will send a follow-up email with all of this information as well so that you have it. It's also on the website. Enrollment decisions are announced in March 2023. We're selecting 125 students and we're having a separate lottery for boys and for girls so that we have an even number. And one of the questions I am asked is about Social Security. It is not asked for during the time of enrollment. So this is kind of whether you have an 8th grader, and this sounds like a good plan, or you know of someone where this might be a really great opportunity. And I think, again, as I said before, it's really for all kids. I wish I had it when I was growing up. Share the word. So there's additional info sessions. Today is the November 17th, but there's one on December 2nd and 7th. Registration is right online. Again, we'll send some of this information out. And the lottery, of course, is in March. But please let folks know so that they can come learn and kind of learn a little bit more about CEDLA throughout time. The other one to help is follow us. If you have your phone right now, get on there. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, we're on all of them, and we like to be popular. So if you want to go on and just friend us, or kind of spread the word that way, that's a helpful way to kind of make sure that we're building a school that is inclusive and has all access, because some of our students who really would be rock stars in CEDLA may not have gotten the word. And so we want to make sure that they have the word. So I'm going to pause for right now and just kind of see if there's any initial questions. And of course, you can email us at info@seedschoolla.org or go on our website. But if there's any quick questions that we can answer now, I'm open and ready. Kenta, is it okay to do it via chat or just raise your hand? Is that both those things okay?
Yes, so both of those options are okay. If folks would like to come off of mute and ask a question to Julian, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you. If you would rather type it in the chat box or the Q&A, you have that option as well. We actually have a question in the Q&A box. So the question is, will you only be accepting applications for students entering 9th grade in 2023? My son will be entering 10th grade at that time.
Yeah, yes, for 2023, only 9th grade, and then we're going to build 10th grade the next year. So I'm sorry, but we just missed you by 1 year.
Julian, it's a little confusing. Is it 2023, March of 2023 or March of 2022?
It's
Because
March
there
of,
was this,
I'm sorry, March of 2022. That's the
Okay.
lottery. The school opens and ready to go in August of 2022.
so if that's the case, then I believe Erendira's son would be eligible to apply because he'll be entering 9th grade in 2022.
So let me say this, because this might be the most helpful. If someone is a current 8th grader, they are ready to apply for the school. So maybe we didn't miss you.
Okay, so we have, okay, she said he is currently in 8th grade, so
that's awesome.
Eligible to apply.
Yes.
All right, so I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on how staying with students through college will look?
Yes. So we have a counselor that is dedicated to students who have graduated on and are now in college. And so we do a couple things around touching base with them on a bi-weekly basis to make sure they're okay, making sure that we're setting up financial packages for every single year with them. Sometimes we actually go to the site and support them and meet them there. So our alumni outreach is frequent, consistent, and monthly with the students that are off campus. And so they see SEED as kind of a hub for their 4 years while they're away. And sometimes 5 years, depending if students are going abroad or those kinds of things. Good question.
Great. Are there any other questions for Jillian at this time? Looks like another one came in.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The question is, what is the number of students accepted for the first school year? 125.
And it sounded like that was split between male and female, right?
That's right.
Julian, this is Kim. Did you say that applications, the cutoff's March, or it starts in March and ends at a point in time? What, can you clarify that?
Yeah, it's open now through March. March
Okay.
24th is the cutoff date. Thanks for clarifying that. That's great.
There's a question in the chat box. So it says, why a boarding school? Boarding schools are for the elite in society. Why build one in South LA?
Yeah, I think if I could, I would find another word to describe CLA, because we're not, there historically boarding schools have been for the elite, and it's oftentimes removing students for long periods of time in which they come home either for a vacation or maybe even a summer break if that's part of the program. We're actually really believing that in partnership with families, so 5 days on campus and then going home on weekends and then coming back in partnership, we're actually allowing students more time, the gift of time, to really focus on their learning, their growth, their development, both socio-emotionally and academically throughout the week. Having been and led many schools, one of the most, I think, devastating and hard things as a principal, and even as a superintendent, was when class ends or school ends at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, sometimes I extend it to 6 o'clock. Sometimes it still was not enough. And frankly, some students didn't have access to the tutoring and some of the sports and some of the activities that they really deserve to have. And so by creating a 5-day, 5-night a week program, we're actually extending the amount of time and resources students have access to, which provides a lot more equity across Los Angeles. And so I would see this kind of as a former person who really wished I had this, but also as a principal who did not have access to this kind of funding or kind of resources for kids. It's truly a gift. Appreciate the question though, because boarding schools have a long history that I don't hope to associate with.
All right. Are there any other questions for Julian? Again, if you'd like to come off of mute to ask your question, you can raise your hand, or you could use the chat box. Julian, I do think it would be great if you could just go over the timelines and the application one more time, just so that folks are clear. And then actually, before you do that, Lisa, if we could take Arendira off of mute, that would be great.
There you go. You should be able to speak now.
Okay, hi, thank you so much. My question is about the academic curriculum. Is it based on a particular learning philosophy or methods?
Yeah, so I think, so there's the large umbrella. I'm going to say two things to you. So, and I've done this for a couple of schools also just here in Los Angeles. The first one is like, what's going to prepare students for AP courses and getting into college. So the curriculum that we're vetting currently right now is going to prepare students to do that, because nothing's worse than getting to college and then not having the access to the texts and the resources that you need to. So I think that's going to be the first umbrella. The second one is really embedding diverse texts that not only represent the students that we have at our school, but also just kind of even Los Angeles and communities at large that we need to kind of embed and make sure that we're doing that. So we're going to be doing a lot of work around some of the curriculum to make sure, and I haven't found a lot of curriculum that I would say has diverse texts that kind of deal with different, like race and ethnicity and different kinds of identity text. And so that's something that we're going to be working and embedding into the curriculum throughout this spring and into the summer. Did that answer your question? Was that helpful?
Yes, very much so.
I have another question. This is Kim from Bridge. Are you in the event that you guys are oversubscribed, which you absolutely should be, because this is so exciting. Can you tell folks how that works?
Yeah. So I also hope that we're overprescribed there and have lots of folks. We are going to have, we're accepting 125, and we're going to have a really healthy wait list, which we are going to take some of those students and actually do an onboarding with them over the summer, knowing that at different times throughout the year, for whatever reason, we may be able to accept more. Or we'll have students that no longer can have it because they're moving out of Los Angeles or whatever circumstances happen. So we're planning to have the 125 and a very healthy and a pretty large wait list. So it's worth it to apply and make sure that you get a spot either or. Thanks, Kim.
So we had another question in the chat. What are some of the community partners for the school?
Yeah, I think actively we are working on that and building relationships. It's really important to us, even this partnership that we have today, and really meeting with the folks from the community. I'm having lots of lunches and lots of meetings with really important folks that care a lot about the neighborhood and care a lot about the school. And so I hope when you ask me that question, or someone asks me that question in about 3-4 months, I will have a list to say that these are all the community partners that we're working with. But right now we're building that. If you have ideas, please send them. That's really important. And we're building them to make sure that they are part of the school and part of the work that we're doing. That's probably my most honest question versus saying we have 50 of them already lined up. We're working on it. Pastor Johnson raised his hand.
Sorry. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. First of all, I'd like to just kind of congratulate the process and welcome to our community. I work with gender specific. I have a gender specific program working with females in community for over 20 years, and most definitely am interested in collaborating and partnering with the Seed LA project. And so, what does that look like, and how would we meet? Do I need to send you an email, or what does that look like?
Please, let's do an email, and then we can just kind of offsite it and just figure out whether we'll go for coffee or something like that. But I'd love to chat with you and learn a little bit more about your work in the community.
Awesome. And please tell me your name. I'm sorry, I'm late to the call. I couldn't get in, and I said, my God, I'm having trouble getting in, and just as time would have it. But I'm so grateful. I work in camps. I've worked in CIW with working with women and girls, and just to see this process, we know that it is environmental change, which is what our children need in the process of making sure that they have the advantage on focusing on education. Because once they leave school, once they leave camps or wherever they're coming from, going back into the same environment daily is where we have always seen the ball drop.
Wow, well said. I'm glad we're recording it because that was really well said. Thank you. I put my email right into that chat. So email me anytime. We'll figure out a time to connect.
Thank you so much. And I'll drop my information in there as well.
Thank you so much.
All right, we have another question. So how are you going to prepare the families for this experience?
Yeah, I think we're holding a lot of information sessions and hope to kind of gather information. Even some of this Q&A back and forth is helpful for me because I'm getting a sense of what the questions are and what the needs are. We're also going to spend the spring really spending some time together. So we're hoping to do a tour of the campus, have some events so that we're able to sit and talk and kind of learn about the community and kind of what the conversation is. But we are also doing an onboarding training for families that will start in April and May, so that we're doing some training and some development around what Seed LA is and kind of the day of the life of it. So we're hoping to spend some time with families and have conversations, but also do some more formal training.
Julian, I'm familiar with Seed and the great work that's been done on the East Coast. It might be great for even prospective families and students to hear from some of the students that have been at other campuses and have, what their experience is like and their successes that, kind of, as you said, a day in the life of. So
I think that's a great idea. One of our alumni from DC is actually on our board. And so it'd be great to kind of bring her. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
So these have been some great questions. if you have any additional questions, please put them in there or raise your hand. Actually, we just had another one come in, but I did want to highlight that there's a couple of folks attending that are potential community partners. So Miss Rosalind Lee is with New Antioch Church and is part of the Community Advisory Committee. And then also Lauren Costa works with a group with foster youth in South LA. So some great potential connections there. So the question that came in is there a specific transportation focused curriculum that aligns with careers in Metro?
Yes, so for ninth grade specifically, and we're still building it out, our partnership is we meet on a weekly basis to kind of develop the curriculum and think through it. In the ninth grade, it's going to be kind of a two-parter. The first one is to really think about how cities move and how people connect through the history and kind of through ethnic studies, and really look at Los Angeles and kind of how it's been put together, both modularly engineering, but also kind of the functionality of it. And so that's going through the history department, which we're very excited about and we're designing right now. And then there's another piece to it, which is their youth curriculum, which is part of Metro developed that a couple years ago. They're revamping it and putting it together. And then students will have access to the youth curriculum, which prepares them for advocacy and for learning about transportation as both the functionality of it, the science of it, but also kind of the particular jobs that relate to that. So that's the two-pronged approach. And then students, as they move forward, can kind of select what they're interested in, whether it's engineering, computer science, or other pieces of Metro and transportation infrastructure that interests them. So something we're building, we're really excited about, and it's in the works. There was another question I hear. It says, what about the houses? Can you say more? Which part are you most interested in?
I gave her permission to speak. Go ahead.
So I was interested on the differences in the houses, you know, how, if there are, because I keep thinking of Hogwarts and how the different basic, you know, philosophies and such.
Yeah, you know, I'm a Harry Potter fan, so I really appreciate that question. I think yes, there typically is. And I'm waiting a little bit till we hire a team, which I'll talk about in a minute, who we're hiring, so everyone can spread the word, please, to design what that looks like. And I imagine what's really cool about being the first class is you kind of can help with that. So are we going to be, you know, Harry Potter is, you know, our kids don't know much about it as much as we do maybe, but there might be an interest to do it colleges. There might be an interest to kind of do, you know, sports teams. I hope it's not that one, but we'll see. So there could be all kinds of ways to do that, but usually there's a way to differentiate the different houses and make sense of it, and students can be part of it. Arts and music. So one of the questions here is, could you talk more about the arts and music program? So we are going to have a state-of-the-art arts and design room, as well as a music room that we plan to make use of over the next few years and make sense of. I think we're still in development around what that looks like, how it can look, what partners we might want to have. And it all depends on who's the teachers, who's the folks that we can kind of recruit, hint, hint. So I think that's something we're interested in building. I'm certainly, as an art person myself, interested in really thinking about that, and particularly arts and design as it relates to transportation infrastructure is a huge piece of how we move and how we connect as people. So I think there's a larger question there. So if you have ideas, pass them along, please. Thank you, Phyllis.
Okay, great. So lots of great questions. Julian, if you don't mind just wrapping up this section by doing a quick overview of the timelines and the application process again, that would be great. And then Jillian also dropped her email in the chat for anybody that would like to reach out to her directly.
So let's talk about timelines. So applications are open now, and they will run until March 24th. The lottery will take place on March 25th. And that will be the boys and girls lottery. And so folks will get emails about that. And then we have our first kind of open house onboarding for parents that will take place on the 3rd week of April. So that's kind of the structure there. School begins August of next year, so August 2022. So the most important thing to know in my book is that applications are open, and I would just go on if you're interested and just do it 5 to 7 minutes to fill it out. And then you have until March 24th to do that.
Okay, we got 2 additional questions. So which programs will be available during the first school year? Will they be tapered in as the student population grows? Question mark.
So I'm thinking the student programs is like the life program, which like the arts and music, that's what I'm assuming. So if I'm off, just let me know, Rita. So what we're doing is once we do the lottery, students will have enrollment paperwork, and part of that is to share their interests. So whether they're interested in gardening, basketball, whatever it is. So we're going to get an interest and then kind of build a program from there. That is our intention actually moving forward over the next 4 years as the school grows, is to look class by class and also see where patterns exist so we can build true 4-year programs where it makes sense to, or not. It might be that robotics is 9th and 10th grade and there's less interest in 11th and 12th grade. So we're going to use a little bit of interest to build out the programs and see what kind of is more permanent versus more exploratory for students as they go through. What I find in 9th grade is students like to try all kinds of different things. And they try to, in 10th grade, try to marry something. So I think we're going to probably build a program that's a little bit flexible in 9th grade where you can experience different things. And in 10th grade, you might lock down on something you're more interested in. Let me look at I see the issue with I haven't heard this before around the application. So let me go on right after this and take care of it and see what I can do. I will email you directly. Absolutely. Oh, I see a partner. Great.
Yes, we have 2 additional folks in the chat. One is Kevin Big Twin Orange. So I'll just read out what he wrote. Co-founder of Advocates for Peace and Urban Unity, which oversees the Mayor's Grid Intervention Program. Also regional coordinator for the DPH Trauma Prevention Initiative in that community for over 17 years. And I've been a resident of that community for over 50 years. We currently have an office across the street from the Seed School. We provide services for youth and families impacted by violence.
Oh, I love that. I will
Kevin,
be calling
did you?
Kevin.
Yes. And then in addition, Audrey Thompson, founder and executive director of the Engineer Factory based in Inglewood, South LA. We strengthen STEM education pipeline for traditionally underserved students. Fantastic.
I wrote it both down, so thank you so much. I'll reach out to you next week.
Great. And then Miss Rosalind Lee said, do you have any promotional material?
I have tons, and what I'll do is I'll follow up from this, our session today, and tomorrow I will email out folders with all of our brochures and materials. Thank you for asking that.
All right, so this has been a great conversation. Thank you everybody for your inputs, and thank you, Julian, for the presentation. At this time, we're going to move forward with the agenda. If you have any additional questions for Jillian specifically around the school, please definitely reach out to her directly, and she'll be sure to get back to you. So Jillian, I believe you also have some opportunities you wanted to share around employment opportunities that will be at the school.
Yes, so there's a whole slew of them, and hopefully it's not too small and you can see it all. So on starting December 15th, it's going to be a little bit of a rollout between December 15th and January 2nd on our website, which will also be on EdJoin, just a little bit slower. Our website will be a little bit faster. We have a slew of positions that we're looking for, including a director of family of community engagement on down through teachers. You'll see the different content that we're looking for. But we need nurses, we need office clerks. So in student life counselors, we need 7 of those. Those are folks that are working with our students after school. They might have some experience working in classrooms. They might also have experience doing kind of activities with students and may have a range of different skills. And so that's the positions here. There's certainly a great deal. So spread the word, please. And keep looking on our website to kind of see the job descriptions. And of course, you can reach out to us if there's any questions or thoughts about any of these positions. So I'll just pause for a second and I'll go to my next slide. Okay. And then just kind of a word up, because it's just important to us. We are committed to making sure that we have really a diverse and inclusive hiring, not only process, but that we are recruiting folks right out of LA, that we are have folks that can really represent kind of the core of who our students are, as well as a diversity across the nation, so that we make sure our students have the very best. And so I love this image. It's not mine. I love to steal it and make it mine, but it is an important piece of real and making sure that we are really, really interested in bringing in the best and the brightest, but also folks who can bring different kinds of skills and experience and backgrounds. So come one, come all. We're excited to have you. And that's it for that. I also can answer questions, like quick questions around the hiring. I don't have a lot of answers other than we need folks, but I'm happy to talk through any of those. I'm going to toss it back to you, Kenta, and please spread the word.
All right. Well, thank you, Jillian. Lots of great information. Thank you for all the folks that ask questions or are reaching out to partner, and we will follow up with everyone after the meeting. So at this time, we're going to shift gears for a second. We have an exciting announcement. After an extensive community engagement process, we have the reveal for the Evermont logo. So at this time, I'm going to pass it over to Claudia, who's going to take us through the big reveal.
Thank you, Kenta. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. As Kenta mentioned, we did have a very extensive community outreach process as related to the logo and branding and naming of the project. Some of you participated in the meetings that we had where the name was selected. The name was announced in a previous meeting in September. The new name for the project is Evermont. And now we're going to be unveiling the final logo selection, which was part of a campaign that we had a meeting where options were presented, as well as an online survey where the larger community was able to participate, who were not able to attend our meeting in September. So with that, this is the logo that was selected, and this is the logo that will be the basis for the logos that will be incorporated into the project. So this is another variation of the logo, which has a larger icon and smaller logo type. And these are just, to show like how it might be incorporated into some merchandise. This is another version of the logo with the logo and the icon and the logo type stacked. Again, this is just a sample as how it could be incorporated into merchandise. This is side by side with the icon and the logo type next to it. And these variations are needed because depending on where they would be placed, there will be some modifications. So, you know, it's not just one specific image, it'll be different images depending on the placement of the logo, whether it's going to be at the site, it's going to be on merchandise, if it's going to be as part of the website. So that's just to show you the different options. This is if the icon is used on its own. And sometimes we may choose to change the color. And then as part of the branding of the project, the residential components have selected their names. Luminous at Evermont is the name of the family residential project, and Vista at Evermont is the name of the senior residential portion of the project. So that's all we have. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments.
My question is, when can I get a shirt?
Soon. Soon. We are going to be working on some merchandise and we'll be sharing that with the community once we're able to start meeting with you guys in person. So for sure, we're planning on having some branded items to share with the community.
All right. Well, thank you, Claudia. Really exciting news there. And that's a perfect segue into our next section. So we wanted to share this. So this event is an event for the community around the development, which is part of a series of events covering different topics related to the development. So we had a number of events earlier in the year about the branding, and that resulted in the Evermont name and the logo. An event that we wanted to share with you and make sure everyone is aware of that's coming up right around the corner in December is the local hire community info session that we're going to be hosting. So this community info session will be on December 8th, and we are going to be holding a hybrid in-person virtual event to talk about local hire opportunities during the construction phase of the mixed-use development side of the project. So that's the affordable housing and the commercial space, as well as ways to get connected to training and apprenticeship pathways that will lead to those type of construction jobs. So we're really excited about this opportunity, really excited to get the word out. And Lisa just dropped the link to the registration for the December 8th local hire event in the chat. And we will also send the flyer to everyone who attended this event. So definitely look out for that. And then during 2022, we will have additional events around the art, the murals that will go in the project, as well as other engagement pieces. So I'm gonna open it up for any remaining questions that anyone may have at this time.
There was one question over in the chat where they were talking about the, and now I'm trying to find it. All right. If you, there was a question in the chat and now I can't find it. Sorry.
That's okay. Are there any other questions that folks have or comments? If you'd like to speak at this time, please raise your hand, or if you have any outstanding questions, you can either use the chat box or Q&A function. And we would really appreciate if you share the information about the local hire event with any folks or organizations who may be interested in learning more about that. And as I said, the link is in the chat, and we will also be sending out the flyer after the event. Okay,
I think the question, sorry, I just wanted to say, I think the question might have been related to the timeline for when the positions will be
Right, for the
filled
jobs.
for
Yeah,
the
for
school.
the
Yeah,
jobs with the seed
yeah.
school. Yeah. I'm
And
trying to find
so,
it so I could read it, but
yeah, but there was a response in the chat that didn't get to Rita because it went to the host and the panelists. So Rita, the answer to that is no problem. We'll get you that info.
all right. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you everybody so much for joining today and being part of this process. Any follow-up questions for Seed School, please follow up with Julian. And then any other questions for the development team, we have everyone's email. And then what is the info email for folks so that we could put that in the chat as well?
For the development side?
Yes.
Okay.
So currently is info@vmtpp.com because that's through the website. We are working on the new website that will reflect the new name, but for the time being, we're still using the existing website, which is vmtpp.com, and the email would be info@vmtpp.com.
Great. Thank you. And Lisa just put that in the chat. So thank you everybody for joining and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Leandro.